Hi, I am here with Miss Cassie Green from Adams City High School, and she's here to give you guys some really good tips and information about the research project and presentation. Here we go. All right, Miss Green. So the research project can be a very daunting assignment for both the students and the teachers. How do you pace your class and prepare your students in the very beginning of it?
So I would say that as far as pacing my class, it really depends on where your kids are at. And so if they've never done research before, which my kids haven't, except for maybe one, you really have to teach them how to set it up. And you really have to scaffold each of the sections so that the kids have time to do each section really well. Because the last thing that you want to do is get to the end and have some pieces that are kind of falling apart. So as far as pacing goes, I like to set out just a big paper calendar of all the months. We happen to be on a block schedule, so mine's every other day. And really just pace out like, okay, so we are going to be giving presentations the first week of May and really backtracking. And so if I was looking at the outline, I would start with first you have to start with the question. Find out what they're passionate about. Find out what is going on in the world around them that makes them angry or upset, because we know that those emotions drive us to want to make change. And really, ultimately, this project is about them inciting change in other people and wanting other people to do something better in the world. So I would say in the very beginning, you have to get them to find a topic that they're really passionate about. And even if it's broad, because they'll all probably start out pretty broad, start out with this broad topic, and as they start to do research, they'll refine it down so that it's workable. So it's something that they're actually finding the answer to the question, and things like that. So I would say, like, for preparing your students in the very beginning, that's what you want. But then after that, you are going to want to have them write their introduction. And their introduction is going to tie into, obviously, why they care about that topic. And that's going to be their buy-in. Because if you don't do that part first, then it's going to be really hard to get their buy-in once you get to the research portion, or the lit review. So they write their intro first, get feedback. Feedback is going to be incredibly important, even though it's the most time-consuming task that you can do with them. But if you can manage it, I think that it's going to be one of the most important ones. And then after they write their intro, then I have them start to write their lit review. And that's really the portion where you're going to have to teach them how to structure it, how to start from their overarching topic and then refine down how to pick out the most important information, showing them how to annotate an article, showing them how do you pick out what's relevant, what's not, what are good sources, what sources do we not want to use, that kind of stuff. I'm a big fan of modeling, so I model for the kids pretty much everything that we do. And then after the lit review, then I'm going to introduce the data and talk about data collection and how they collect that data and those pieces, and then make sure to give them enough time to collect the data, and make sure that you're checking in with them, that you have check-in dates, like, okay, how much data have you collected by here, where are you at this point? Because I found that last year that if you don't, then they might get to the end and be very unhappy with what they have. And then so as far as pacing goes, you'd want to start with the time when you're going to be presenting. So I would leave that last week or two for prep, for setting up for things. So I would say that the paper needs to be due no later, the paper completely done needs to be due no later than the end of April. And that's like completely formatted, 100%, all of that. And so work back, whatever your calendar or your schedule is, work back from that point, give them time for the conclusion, and then give them time to do the urban ed, and then the data, and then lit review, and then all the way back, starting with the intro.
This project is a marathon. So how do you keep your students motivated all the way through until the end of the project and the end of the semester?
the 2 students that I had that graduated last year and that went on to college have both come back to me and said, I'm so thankful that you made me write this, because if you hadn't made me write this, then my college classes would probably be a lot harder. And so that's something that I always tell kids. I promise that you will use this. I promise that you will use these skills. And I have some kids who they are not sure if they want to go to college, which is totally fine. And we talk about that as well. But part of that, I guess, that motivation is their topic will motivate them. So that's why that topic and whatever they choose is so important for them to be really engaged in it. And if they're passionate about their topic, then I think that really will help drive them through. But also just like the fact that they're going to have to use these skills at some point, whether it is in a job later or anything like that. And if they can do this, I really think it's a huge piece of it is like that confidence of, like you were talking about a marathon, right? Like once you've completed it, you know you can do it. And so it's not as daunting or as scary. I think for a lot of them right now, it's just scary. I mean, it's just a daunting task. So that would probably be my 2 cents.
Great. All right. As a seasoned Pathways to Teaching instructor, is there anything that you wish you had known or done in your first year to make that research project process easier? So what should teachers expect or prepare for this semester?
I would say that you need to sit down and make a calendar right now. Like that should be the thing that you do as soon as you watch this video. And it is possible to write the majority of this paper probably from we probably started it in end of February last year. I mean, it was a mad rush. We probably wrote the entire paper in 2 months, but I wouldn't wish that on anyone, and neither would my kids from last year. So if I were you, I would create that calendar, figure out how exactly you are going to scaffold each of the chunks, the intro, the lit review, the data, the urban ed, those pieces, and make sure that you give yourself enough time. If you haven't started yet, I promise you'll be okay. If I can do it in such a short amount of time last year, I'm sure you can too. But it'll make you feel better if you just plan it out kind of right now. And I would say that the biggest thing is that kids have never written anything like this. And so for them, it's scary and it's daunting and it's all of those. They're very emotionally connected to it because they don't want to suck. But I think that the more often that you can build in time to give them really good feedback, then it's going to be easier for them to make changes. It's going to be easier for them to be like, okay, I got done with that part. I can move on to the next because I'm finished my intro or I'm finished my lit review, so now I'm fine to move on to that next piece. I think that's really good. They also probably haven't written in APA format, so for a lot of them, the formatting is going to be really hard, and so I think getting them really in tune with Purdue OWL APA is going to be huge, and just making sure that they have seen models. They've seen models of papers. They've seen if you can write an intro or if you can write an urban ed piece or a lit review. I know we don't have any time, so it's probably ridiculous to even suggest, but I found that when I wrote my intro last year, I knew better what kids needed and what kind of support they needed to write that. And so as much as it sucks, I'd recommend doing it. And then, yeah, just build that calendar. Know exactly how long you have, how long you can give kids. Be very strict with deadlines. I don't work very well. I'm a procrastinator, so I think that I have to give kids strict deadlines, so I have to give myself strict deadlines. And I think that will make it easier for them, especially if they are going to college. Then when they get to college, there are no extensions, let's be honest, unless it's a catastrophe. So they need to know that you're going to support them through this process, but that due dates are very, very important.
Can you describe how you conducted the gallery walk presentations in the past, and what did that look like, and how did you prepare your students to present?
So if you think of the gallery walk presentations as kind of like a science fair. So we set up in our main hallway, we set up tables on either side, and kids literally got like the 3-fold posters, poster board, and they took their paper, because it was completed, and they put it into a PowerPoint. And so in that PowerPoint, they were able to print off slides and create slides to put up as visuals. And then they basically wrote down their most important facts and information on note cards, and they practiced with each other and they memorized stuff. My suggestion would be that whenever you have to, whatever night or day that you are presenting, that your students have their boards 100% completed the week before, because it always seems like the printer runs out of color ink right when you need it, and you don't want that to happen because that wasn't fun. And yeah, give them time so that they can present to each other, because if you wait until the very last second, they will wait until the very last second because they're us, younger. And if you have any other classes or teachers that you could have come in and have kids, like after they presented to each other in a comfortable environment, like give them kids that they don't really know and have them present to those kids, I think that would be a really good way for them to practice, especially because a lot of our parents didn't really come. We had parents come and some teachers, but there wasn't like this huge community crowd. But so for the first time they were presenting to somebody other than their classmates was like either their parents or Dr. Bianco or any of those things. And so that was a bit scary for them. And so maybe if they have a chance, if you know of any other classes who could come in and listen to presentations, or even teachers if they're off that period or something like that, that might be helpful.
Wonderful. Thank you. Do you have any final tips or tricks or messages about this project for our teachers?
It will feel like you are never going to get through, but I promise that you will. And I promise when you're done, your heart is like literally going to be bursting with pride at what your students create and the things that they put together and that they make. And there's going to be a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that comes by the end of it. But these kids are going to be better writers. They're going to be prepared in a way that they might not be with their regular English classes. I'm an English teacher. I feel like I could say that. And I would say, like, create that calendar so that you can not stress yourself out. So knowing that you're going out of town on a weekend might not be a good idea to have something due that you're going to need to give feedback on right then. Like, you have to plan for your life as well and do those pieces. And so I would say just the most effectively that you can do that, that I think you'll be better off and feel more sane and less crazy. But I promise it'll be worth it. It's like how they got all of us to become teachers, right? They said that it's going to be worth it. And then there's days when you're like, this isn't worth it. But there's those days when it is. And when they finally present and do their stuff, it'll be one of those days. So
thank you so much.
For sure.
You've got this, teachers.